All right. Welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And I've got an incredible guest for you today, Lisa Danforth, and I'll talk to you about her in just a second. But first, I want to remind you why you're here. Success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors from all walks of life who are aspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value, and a vision that goes generations into the future. And Lisa Danforth, our guest today, is no exception. She's an awesome warrior. She's a serial entrepreneur, a business growth strategist, and leadership coach. Lisa's 30-year warrior journey includes multiple businesses, beginning in a family business where she knew she wanted to be an entrepreneur by the age of 8. She has opened and operated 2 catering companies, a professional cleaning company, and international wholesale childrenswear company, which, by the way, she sold for more than 35 times her initial investment. That's a pretty good business deal. For the last 8 years, Lisa has been a business strategist and leadership coach. She received her bachelor's in business from the University of Southern Maine. She is certified by the Coaches Training Institution, CTI, a certified ONE Thing Facilitator. I love that book, by the way. Coactive coach, and a graduate of Tara Mohr's Playing Big Facilitators course. Lisa has been dubbed by her clients, and I love this, the hand-holding ass kicker, since she matches just the right amount of push with a dose of love. Lisa Danforth, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How are things in your neck of the woods today?
Oh, they're phenomenal. It's actually a little gray and rainy and chilly, unlike pretty much the rest of the US right now. So I woke up and put on fleece pants this morning, believe it or not. It's a little different, but absolutely stunning. Vermont is a gorgeous little state.
Well, I lived in Michigan for 18 years where I picked up my family, and so it's kind of when I moved them all to Texas, when people are experiencing what you're experiencing today, I'm not that excited. I wouldn't mind experiencing that, but most of my family goes, "Oh, I wish I was." That sounds great to me. I've got a good friend who's in Yellowstone right now, and they said it snowed. I mean, there's other issues going on there, but it snowed there. It looks beautiful, but they're wearing sweaters and all this stuff, and it's going to be 100 degrees here. So, but it is sunny, and I like sun, and I don't like to shovel snow. So I've had enough of that in my life. So anyway. So everything else going good in Vermont? You're in Vermont, right? Yeah.
I am in Vermont. It is going incredibly well. We've, once we hit the warmer weather, it's just so much easier to get out on the boat, walk by the water. I live in Burlington, so I live moments from Lake Champlain. So I can go walk around there, have dinner by the lake. It is an absolutely beautiful place to live, which is probably why a lot of people have been moving here over the last few years. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. We have a huge influx in this part of the world from people that you could argue the geography and or weather might be more conducive, but they're moving here anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, places like Vermont and some of these areas that have the beauty, the water, yeah, can't beat it. Love it. Well, let's do this. I'm really wanting to share your story and your journey with our audience. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll hear a little of our theme song from Ricky Jean Wright. It's Not the Getting There. And we'll be back to hear your story on Warrior versus Zombie. All right. We are back. And Lisa, I'm really looking forward to this. Your story, from starting as an entrepreneur from the time you were 8, and some of the experiences you had, I know that that journey has got to be a fascinating one. I'm sure through that process, it hasn't been 100% smooth sailing. I'm sure you've killed some zombies along the way. So tell us your story.
Just a couple of zombies along the way. Yeah, I come from an entrepreneurial family, which has been wonderful. I learned a lot from them, and there's been a lot of growth. So I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to work by myself, for myself, and really get my message out there, which I've been able to do. I graduated college and I did work for a little short period of time for someone, but then launched into, when I moved to Vermont, I was working actually as a waitress for a short period of time.
Mhm.
I thought, okay, if I'm going to make this little amount of money, I'm just going to work for myself and just start something that I want to do. So I started a childrenswear company and decided to just get it out there. We built it up to a 56 home sewers, full-time production manager. We shipped internationally, really got it to a very large point. But I was pregnant with my second child, and it was kind of like the tail was wagging the dog. So I wound up selling it to one of my home sewers and just took a little bit of time off, about a year, and then started in with my catering company. Started it very slowly because I had 2 young children, and grew it from there. I accommodated my husband's schedule and my kids' schedule. And then once the kids were off in school, I was actually able to start really building the business up. So it was wonderful that I was able to work outside of my house, inside of my house. I've always had my office in the house, which is just such a treat because it allows me a lot of flexibility. And I had the catering business for 14 years, but in 2008, does anyone remember when 2008, when that economy was like a little, I had worked so hard to build up a very high-end boutique catering business. We were known for those little hors d'oeuvres, just these little tidbit bites on little plates that were spectacular, and had built up that reputation. And I didn't want to be in competition with myself by offering lower cost events. So I decided to start a whole separate division called Hot Betty Barbecue, which was just a blast. Like, I mean, just so much easier. You bring up the grill, grilling the dogs and the burgers and chicken and whatnot, and had just a really great time with that. As I was going through my catering business, I was introduced to coaching, to Adlerian coaching. I was actually introduced to it through parenting classes because my second child, love him dearly, sweet young man, was a little bit of a tough kid. So I started taking parenting classes and learned about Adlerian, Adlerian parenting classes. I learned that there was Adlerian coaching as well and started leaning into that, which I had to put on the back burner, and we'll put that over to the zombie component when I was going through a divorce. And then I just built my catering business up very high and decided to circle back around to the coaching. It just kept calling, when something just keeps popping in front of you. So I just circled back around, started coaching through the Coactive Institute and got certified in that and launched my coaching business alongside of my catering business. But when I turned 50, I realized I'm like, I don't want to do both. I really want to lean into this coaching. And that year I decided to finish the year with the catering and launch full-time into the coaching.
So is that from you kind of, and I just always love this about warriors because, you kind of, I did this and I did this and I did this. And we have a lot of stories and the transitions or the inflection points that occur along the way. There's a lot of support, there's success, but then there's also a challenge. That life is all about challenge and support, right? So along that way, moving from now the cleaning businesses, were they family businesses?
Yep.
Or
the cleaning business, I actually started, I forgot to mention that I started that when I was in college so that I could work around my college schedule and make really good money. So I was like, okay. And that was hugely successful. It was it was a lot of fun. I could completely be flexible.
So when you went out, just curiosity. So along the way, when you you mentioned the one you sold, that to, and the one of the people who are doing the
Yeah, the children's wear
children's
company.
wear for you. Did the others you just walk away from? What did that look like?
The house, the professional house cleaning company, I just walked away from because I
Mhm.
moved. The children's wear company I sold. The catering company, I worked outside of my home, so it didn't have it wasn't just sort of a turnkey type of business. So I looked around to see if anyone was interested in buying it, and they were not, because it wasn't, I was the chef and I had no venue, I had no spot. So what I wound up doing is reaching out to a few other catering companies who I had great connections with, and sold a bunch of the equipment, kept a bunch for myself, and just moved full on into the coaching business, which is out of my house.
That's fascinating, and I can see the journey, and I know a lot of warriors along the way. It's that whole balance, right? It's a whole trade-off between family and everything. So what other, I heard the zombie of divorce, and obviously that kind of inflection can, again, one of the things people don't realize is your life is whole, right? It's totally a complete thing.
Looks perfect from the outside.
Relationships, health. Yeah. If you're not good, your business isn't good.
Right.
And that's one of the things that most of the warriors here struggle through, is that there are zombies that occur. So tell me, that one is, I can see, I've heard that one. You mentioned a child that had challenge. I mean, what other types of challenges along the way?
Well, when I was starting the children's wear company, the bank wouldn't loan me money. They had to have my husband's name on the loan. So I struggled with that as a woman,
Mhm.
and was able to take the loan by myself when I called a few people to the mat and was like, there's absolutely no reason why. I've got the finances, I've got the credit, but I truly had to stand up for myself and say, no, this is not okay. This is, 1990, whatever,
Mhm.
and battled that. So we need to be able to speak up for ourselves, state what we want, and challenge the status quo. Not easy, very simple, right? That we need to do it, but not particularly easy. Fortunately, I was brought up with parents who, in a business, so I understood it. I understood how to articulate my needs and learn how to negotiate, but not back down. So that really helped me get into the children's wear company. When I sold that, again, I was pregnant with my second child,
Mhm.
and the tail was wagging the dog, really. I was trying to take care of a 1-year-old pregnant with another child. I knew with each one of my businesses, I knew that I wanted to move on, even though every single one of the businesses were successful, more successful than I had anticipated.
Mhm.
But I decided that I wanted to sell it because it was no longer bringing me joy. It's bringing me financial success, but not that internal success. So I approached a couple of the home sewers who I knew were interested, and one purchased it. So then I took a year off, discovered what I wanted to do. I just jumped into catering because my parents were in the food industry, and it was super easy for me to start a business
Mhm.
outside of my home, or excuse me, working in my home, and just building it up from there. When I decided to sell the catering business, it was 14 years in. I remember waking up on around my 50th birthday. My heart was palpitating. My mind was literally racing before I'd even opened my eyes, really, like I was kind of coming to. And I thought, this is not sustainable. The catering business was beautiful because it allowed me to provide a life for myself and my children. So I built that up and put the coaching business on the back burner. But when I woke up and my heart was literally racing and my eyes were not even open, I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And I decided and that was also the following summer. I said I was going to go through the end of the year, mostly for tax purposes, and then and stop it on December 31st. The following summer was my son's last summer home before he went to college. I did not want to miss that. I had missed almost every single summer with my boys, although often they were working with me. So I just decided to step away from it. The zombie component was I was 50.
Mhm.
People were like, what are you doing? You can't do that. who am I going to hire as a caterer? Or you're 50. What are you thinking? Like, you've got a secure job, just do it. The beauty is it didn't even occur to me that I was 50 and I should be even questioning that I should be launching into something that is totally calling to my heart, launching full time into the coaching. But it was amazing to me how many people told me I couldn't, I shouldn't, I was wrong. What the hell am I doing? All of that. And when we're grounded in our truth, when we're grounded in our purpose, it's amazing how we can say, thank you for your opinion.
I'm laughing because there's I never cease to be fascinated by the God or the universe's alignment of people. And my decision to retire actually occurred at 50. And so the fact that occurred, there's a thing that I have, and by the way, just I'm a Christian. I only have one source, and so anything I say that has any brilliance attached is coming from that source. But I lost what I called God's peace. You could call it something different, and I could see getting to the end of the journey, and it wasn't about making $1 million a year. It wasn't about status and the house that I lived in and all of those kinds of things. It was about impacting the lives of my 5 children and the community that I was working every day, every week to get back to, because I put 4 million miles on airlines. I travel, it wasn't but that's not a bad thing. People say, oh, that was, now I see why. No, most people would go, man, I wish I had that lifestyle. Yeah. And I got exactly what you got, is like, what in the world are you doing? How could you possibly at that stage with that kind of life, whatever, how could you step away from that? How could you, well, and then, they were right in some respects, because financially 2008, you mentioned 2008. In 2008, I lost $3 million. I mean, it everything that was on paper turned out to be on paper and didn't, and so, yeah, but the point is, a warrior knows where they're at, looks forward, makes the decisions, gets their peace, and then starts plowing forward. And it doesn't mean there's not challenges, doesn't mean things aren't going to happen. So you've shared some things that are real, number one, aligned with me, but also very valuable to the warriors listening to this, is that whether you're a serial entrepreneur or not, and a lot of people, the thing you've got have had going for you is you had that experience from an early age. You knew it wouldn't kill you if things got disrupted, because no entrepreneur or no business owner, expects it to be without challenge, even though you can have success, right?
We have to be, as an entrepreneur, you've got to have a thick skin. You've got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. We need to put ourselves out there in a way that is not always comfortable. I'm an introvert. I love being on stage and talking about my purpose and my passion, but I'm very much an introvert. And I will say another zombie that has been probably the biggest one for me to overcome is when I launched into my coaching career full time, I had that sort of imposter syndrome. Even though multi-time entrepreneur, been in business for 20 some odd years at that point, my youngest son was graduating and moving out west where his brother was or is there, which is beautiful. They're together. At that point, I thought, I'm not living in the place that I really want to live. I could live anywhere in my life. I had no children, no spouse at that point, and I could travel anywhere. What do I want to do? And I realized I was keeping myself small because I was too afraid to. When you're selling food, you're selling food. You're selling the event. When you're selling children's wear, you're selling a product. When you're coaching, you're selling yourself. That was hard for me to truly grasp. So when my youngest son moved, I wound up taking 8 months and moving to my family's lake house during the winter, and took 8 months. I didn't take 8 months off. I still worked some, but what I did is I really took a pause and got clear on what is it that I want? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Awesome. I know that this is what it's supposed to be. So that pause was super hard to do, changed my entire life. It doesn't have to be 8 months though.
No, well, timing, again, the event, the process, the thing, the learning that is there is worth contemplating, is that taking a step back and being intentional and understanding why and the value and so on, which is a great segue, by the way, for this third segment, which is now we're kind of to today. I think we're in the coaching thing. So we're to today. Let's take a break and then we'll come back. For the audio audience, you'll hear a little more Ricky Jean Wright. And then we'll hear kind of your what you're doing today. And we'll be right back with Lisa Danforth and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, Lisa, great conversations, a lot of warrior nuggets, as I say there. And this is, I'm loving the conversation. I know that those listening to it will as well. So let's talk about your coaching business. And as I always say, why are you doing it? What unique value do you see yourself bringing to the party with your clients and the world around you? And then, if anything were possible, what kind of impact would you like to have?
Why am I doing it? Well, I think that's an exceptional question. I think that is what often drives us. So it's super important to get clear. And that's what that pause did. Just to back up for a quick second, what happened when I was there is I'm an early morning riser. I have a morning routine. I'm reading, sipping my coffee, looking out at the frozen lake. And I read a quote by Brene Brown that said, "Fitting in is the greatest barrier to belonging." And I literally stopped mid slurp. And my life flashed before my eyes of how I often gave over my voice. I wasn't true or authentic to myself. Other people may perceive it that way, but I knew that I wasn't. That quote completely changed the way that I operated, because I could see where almost all of my struggles as a child, moving into adulthood, marriage, and business was because I was not showing up authentically. I was fitting in so that I felt like I could belong.
Yep.
I didn't have a voice. I didn't feel truly seen and heard. What I've seen with the people that I work with and the people that I speak with is we are our biggest struggle, and that we don't use our voice. And when we pause, my big word really is pause. When we pause, we can be more purposeful in our actions, more intentional, and just make the decisions that are in alignment with not only who we are, but who we want to be. So for me, that's where I'm at now, is truly understanding that when I show up as me, that's where I can make the greatest amount of impact.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, because frankly, that pause, that realization, you actually answered two questions. Whether the why is that you needed to get to what was inspiring to you, but the value you provide is you had that realization, and now you can share that with your clients, right? Your authentic self. And that's also why in the journey of this podcast and what I work, is we all have a story, and the story takes us to where we are today. And so you've just illustrated that in spades. So besides your experience with getting connected to your authentic self and having that aha moment, or whatever you want to call it, what other, as you reflect on the clients that you're working with today, there's unique value, and I can see a lot of that in you just from the short time we've known each other. But what do you see yourself as a coach, as a bringing a unique value to the people you're able to serve?
It's a big question. What I say my gift is I'm able to see the golden thread that weaves the tapestry of my clients' lives that they can't necessarily see. So all of these different moving parts from childhood to present, and then what it is, my belief is our beliefs drive our behavior. We won't act inconsistently with who we believe ourselves to be. So my gift is really seeing what are the beliefs and questioning people in a way. And that's the whole hand holding, ass kicking of creating a very, very safe environment for us to explore what it is that's driving our behavior, that's creating the results that we don't always want. and being able to look at it from a meta view. We want to remove the judgment and the opinion and be able to look at it so that we can start shifting things. I talk a lot about time and consistency. We value the present more than we value the future. So we want the reward in the moment of pleasing people, saying yes, adding something else to our plate. But the cost is in the future of that puts our goals and our priorities on the back burner. So when I can help them see where their choices are getting in their way of creating the impact and the income that they want, it allows them to step into their brilliance and say, that would love to, doesn't fit my schedule. It's not where I'm going, or whatever it may be that's in alignment with them. So it empowers the people to be able to say, again, great, sounds like a cool opportunity, but it's actually a distraction. So I help people create a saner approach to success by building a business or career that will sustain their life, not consume it. We start that by being intentional in what we want and who we're being in the moment. I support my clients by continually directing their attention and their actions back to what they're saying that they want. And if it's continually out of alignment, that's my responsibility to say, hey, let's just take a pause here and look at this. Do you really want this? Or is it just something you feel you should have? And if so, okay, let's discuss that. Or do you truly want this, but you're allowing all of these other things to get in the way, and we need to look at how to move those out of the way, and let's chat about that. There's no judgment. I had one client who said she was going to go full-time in her business within the next year. She worked full-time and had a very successful individual business. She kept avoiding doing her work, and I called her out on it very lovingly, and she broke down into tears and said, this is the first time I've ever been comfortable. I don't want to rock the boat. So we just moved the date by a year, and she was relieved. Her business is thriving. That's the gift, is allowing people to do it, live a life intentionally.
Amen. Yeah, it's as you build your bridge from the future, and I say from the future, not to the future, one brick at a time. And sometimes if we don't have enough bricks, or we don't have the pieces, we have to take a step back and say, okay, let's shift the time. It's really, as long as you're moving forward, like I say, don't be afraid of going slow. Just don't stand still. And so that's a brilliant thing. So the final piece of this segment really is, so what if anything were possible, and oh, by the way, I believe everything is possible, what kind of impact are you hoping to have through what you're doing today?
It's huge. I mean, when I sit with it, it's really huge. It's truly creating better relationships, which it sounds so simple, right? But it's truly understanding that how we show up, when we can be more and bring more compassionate curiosity to ourselves and to others, and less judgment, our relationships improve. Everything we do, we're a part of a community. We are hardwired to be a part of a community. And when we can be more respectful and intentional in our relationships, people get to be more of themselves, and we connect at a much deeper level. So my goal, my mission is to help people really implement the habit of pause so they can live more intentional, connected, and fulfilling lives. Anything's possible from that point.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. And so it's just getting that message out, which we'll do a little bit with this podcast and show today. Let's do this. We're going to take the final break, and we'll get into what I call the land the plane segment. When we come back, and I think I've already might pick it up, but I want to know if we take away anything from this discussion, this podcast, your story, all this stuff. And by the way, I used to say when I started the one thing, and now I know warriors are overachievers. So if you got more than one, but if we take away anything from this, what would you have us take away? So think about that for a second. We'll take another quick break, and we'll be right back with the final segment of this episode of Warrior versus Zombie with Lisa Danforth. All right, we are back. And Lisa, as I always say, it's been a great conversation, and it's I don't even know how long we've gone, but went way too fast because I just enjoy the conversation, and I know the folks will be enjoying listening to it. But as I said before the break, if we take away anything, what do you want us to take away?
The main thing truly is to pause, is before saying yes, before saying no, before acting, reacting, or not acting, to just to pause. There's such power in a pause. I love a quote by Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, author of oh gosh, I can't believe Man's
And
Meaning.
search for meaning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. When we pause and connect to, is this something I want to do? It is possible to build the life that you want.
Love it. Let me give you a heads up. So, by the way, for those listening to this podcast, Lisa is going to be joining the Connect to Thrive Mastermind in a few weeks. So I'd encourage you to check that out and be check back in with that either on our YouTube channel, Be Connected platform. But in preparation for that, I'm going to have one of the questions I'm going to have or I want to discuss is the power of pause versus if you've ever the whole refractory period, the tendency for people, if they're not careful, to not step into the opportunity that's presented to them because our zombie brain kind of drives us to protect ourselves, right? And so that pause, and I know that what you're going to talk about to some degree, and it's engaging your frontal lobe, not reacting emotionally either way. So, but anyway, I think that's a brilliant takeaway for the warriors. I think that everybody needs to realize that you need to take a minute, not just to react positively or negatively. Let me say it that way. And maybe I'm answering my own question, but the thing is, I do want to explore that with our mastermind is acting and not being afraid to act, but also making sure that when you act, you're moving deliberately forward, which is what I heard you say. Hopefully I got it right, or at least got it partially right, but I'm looking forward to us spending an hour and a half on the mastermind and getting more of your brilliance and your excellence in that discussion. So how do we stay in touch with you, Lisa? I know for those on Listen to Be Connected platform, you'll be able to find Lisa Danforth on the platform. She's getting her profile built out and all that stuff. And it's a pretty exciting place to be these days. But beyond that, how do we follow up with you after listening to this podcast?
Well, I would love if you would reach out via LinkedIn. That is my platform of choice. That's where I love to hang out. And I am just at Lisa Danforth, which is super easy. My website is Lisa Danforth. And my email is just Lisa@Lisa Danforth. So I like to keep things easy. I don't get confused that way.
Love simplicity. It helps my brain too. So yeah, I love that. All right. Well, this has been a great journey, Lisa. We could go on and on and on, but we won't today, but we will be back. And again, thank you for serving our audience today. It's been amazing. And every time we get together, on this Zoom platform, we've never met in person, but it's been brilliant, and I love it. So, just if anybody's really wanting to follow up, I would say again, come to the mastermind. We'll have a beautiful time, and we'll see you back next Thursday at 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern,
All of that.
9 Pacific, wherever you're at, for another episode of Warrior versus Zombie, and we'll hear the final outro of Ricky Jean Wright.